There's a moment most men completely miss, not because it never happened, but because they were looking for the wrong thing. They were waiting for obvious signs, a confession, a flirtatious line, some dramatic movie-style signal that practically screams attraction. Meanwhile, the woman sitting across from them had already been communicating for the last 20 minutes. Not with words, with her body. And the terrifying part? Most men never even realize it until it's over. They walk away confused, replay the interaction later, wonder why the energy suddenly disappeared, why she became distant, why the opportunity slipped through their fingers without warning. And somewhere in that confusion, they ask the same question millions of men ask every single day: what did I miss? Here's the truth. You probably didn't miss a sentence. You missed a feeling. Because female attraction rarely announces itself loudly in the beginning. It leaks out quietly, through posture, tension, movement, proximity, rhythm, breathing, stillness. The body speaks first. The mouth catches up later. And once you understand this, you stop experiencing attraction as a guessing game. You start seeing it happening in real time. Now, before we go further, understand something important. This is not about manipulation. This is not about hacks. And it's definitely not about turning human connection into some weird psychological chess match. This is about awareness. Because attraction is deeply biological. Long before people consciously decide how they feel, the nervous system already knows. That's why sometimes a woman says she's not sure about a man, while her body is leaning toward him the entire conversation. And sometimes she says all the right things, while every part of her body is quietly trying to leave. Words can perform. Bodies usually tell the truth. Studies in behavioral psychology have shown something fascinating. Women often communicate interest nonverbally long before verbal confirmation ever appears. Not intentionally, not strategically, instinctively. Small, unconscious signals begin stacking on top of each other until attraction becomes physically visible. And today, we're going to break down 4 body areas that reveal more than most men ever notice. But here's the key. No single sign means everything. This isn't a magic formula. Attraction is about clusters, patterns, consistency, energy flowing naturally instead of forced behavior. And the final signal changes the way you read interactions forever, because it reveals the difference between politeness and genuine emotional openness. So pay attention. The first sign begins in a place almost nobody watches: the neck. Now, this might sound small at first, but psychologically, it's massive. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body. It protects arteries, airways, survival itself. That's why humans instinctively guard it when uncomfortable. Think about stressful situations. People tighten their shoulders, lower their chin, create protection without even realizing it. But attraction often does the opposite. When a woman slowly tilts her head while listening to you, when she brushes her hair aside and leaves her neck exposed, when she keeps that area open instead of guarded, her nervous system is revealing comfort, and comfort is the foundation of desire. A woman cannot genuinely relax into attraction while her body feels unsafe. That's why this matters more than most men think. What's interesting is that these gestures are usually unconscious. She's not sitting there thinking, "Let me expose my neck now." No. Her body simply stops defending itself around you, and then something even subtler happens. Touching. A hand lightly grazing the side of her neck, fingers resting near her collarbone. Adjusting jewelry slowly while maintaining eye contact. These tiny movements often happen when emotional awareness increases. It's almost like the body becomes hyper-aware of itself in your presence. And most men completely miss it because they're too busy trying to sound impressive. But attraction is rarely created by performance. It's amplified by emotional safety. Now, the second signal is quieter, but once you notice it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. The wrists, especially the inner wrists. This is one of the clearest indicators of subconscious openness. Watch what happens when people feel defensive. They cross their arms, hide their hands, pull inward. The body closes itself. But when a woman feels emotionally comfortable around someone, her body begins opening vulnerable areas naturally. Palms become visible, gestures become softer, movements become slower, and suddenly the wrists are exposed. Maybe she rests her chin on her hand while talking to you. Maybe her sleeve slides back and she doesn't rush to cover it. Maybe she plays with a bracelet absent-mindedly while staying fully engaged in the conversation. Again, none of this sounds dramatic. That's exactly why men overlook it. Because real attraction usually doesn't look cinematic in the beginning, it looks subtle, quiet, almost invisible, until you understand the psychology behind it. The inner wrist contains pulse points, areas associated subconsciously with vulnerability and trust. People hide vulnerable areas when uncomfortable, they reveal them when relaxed, and there's another layer men rarely understand. When a woman truly enjoys someone's presence, her energy changes rhythm. She stops rushing. Her movements become fluid instead of sharp, settled instead of restless. That calm softness, that's not boredom, that's comfort expanding, and emotional comfort is where deeper attraction begins growing roots. Now here's where things become even more revealing, because the next signal exposes attention in its rawest form: the legs and feet. Most men obsess over facial expressions. Meanwhile, the feet are telling the entire story. Why? Because people consciously manage their face. They rarely control their lower body. Feet are brutally honest. When someone wants to leave, their feet often point toward exits before the conversation even ends. The body psychologically prepares for departure before words do. But when a woman is deeply engaged with you, her lower body aligns toward you. Her knees angle toward you. Her feet remain directed toward you, even in group settings. She unconsciously adjusts herself to maintain orientation with your presence. That's attention, not performative attention, instinctive attention, and then comes the nervous energy. This part is important. Attraction creates physiological activation. Heart rate changes, adrenaline subtly increases, awareness sharpens, and the body needs somewhere to release that energy. That's why you'll sometimes notice a gentle bouncing foot, slow leg crossing, subtle shifting, small restless movements mixed with prolonged attention. Not anxiety, stimulation. There's a difference. One feels uncomfortable, the other feels alive. And this is where many men sabotage themselves. The second they sense attraction, they panic internally. Their mind explodes with pressure. Don't mess this up. What should I say next? Does she actually like me? How do I keep her interested? And instantly, they stop being present. That's the tragedy, because while her body is slowly opening, his mind is sprinting into fear. And women feel that immediately, not logically, energetically, which brings us to the strongest signal of all, the torso. This is the body's center, the emotional core, the area humans protect most naturally. When a woman fully turns her torso toward you, shoulders, chest, stomach aligned, something powerful is happening psychologically. She is no longer partially engaged. She is emotionally invested in the interaction. Most people angle themselves away when uncertain, even slightly, but full body orientation signals trust, attention, and presence. And if she leans in while speaking, that's even stronger. Because leaning closer is the body reducing distance voluntarily, not forced, not obligated, chosen. Sometimes she adjusts her clothing, touches near her waist, lets her posture soften instead of remaining rigid. These are not scripted behaviors, they're emotional leakage. And when the neck, the wrists, the legs, and the torso begin aligning together, the message becomes impossible to ignore. Her body is saying, I feel good here. Not just entertained, not just politely engaged, safe, curious, open. And that word matters more than men realize, open. Because attraction does not grow under pressure. It grows inside emotional safety. That's why the men who chase hardest often fail. They focus on impressing instead of observing. Meanwhile, the man who stays grounded, who notices subtle shifts, who remains emotionally calm, usually becomes the man she remembers. Now, here's the painful truth most men need to hear. You are probably missing signals every single week. Not because women are impossible to understand, but because modern men are mentally absent during interactions. They're trapped inside self-consciousness, performing confidence, monitoring themselves, trying to avoid rejection, trying to engineer attraction instead of feeling the moment naturally. And in doing so, they become disconnected from the very thing that creates attraction. Presence. Women feel presence faster than they process words. A calm nervous system feels attractive. A grounded man feels safe. A man who truly sees her instead of trying to impress her feels rare. That's why some men say very little, yet women feel intensely drawn toward them. It's not magic, it's emotional regulation. And once you understand this, dating starts looking completely different. You stop obsessing over lines, you stop hunting for perfect responses, you stop treating attraction like a performance review. Instead, you observe, you listen, you notice the tiny moments most people overlook. The pause before she smiles, the way her body stays close instead of pulling away, the unconscious mirroring, the softness entering her voice, the relaxation entering her posture. That's where real connection lives. Not in rehearsed words, but in unspoken comfort. And one more thing. When you notice these signs, do not rush. That's where immature men destroy everything. They mistake openness for permission to force intensity, but confidence is not rushing the moment. Confidence is being able to stay calm inside it. If her body opens, you slow down. You match her energy. You maintain safety. You stay emotionally steady. Because attraction deepens when a woman feels understood, not pressured. So let's bring everything together. The neck reveals comfort, the wrists reveal openness, the legs and feet reveal attention, the torso reveals emotional engagement. One signal means very little alone, but together, they tell a story words often hide. And once you learn to read that story, you stop asking, "Does she like me?" Because the answer was already there long before she ever said it.